Tonight, the headlines are all about health care. Pretty soon, people in this province will be able to access their own medical records, and
contract talks between Allied Health and the provincial government have broken down.
Our members are asking about when we're taking a strike vote, so again, that tells you how motivated they are.
We're going to do everything that we can to not have that happen.
I'm Heather Gillis, and I'll have more on that story coming up on Here and Now.
The province now says Heart Force One, its fly-in, fly-out service for heart patients, will be stationed right here in central Newfoundland.
We are also able to look at adding other services.
That story later on Here and Now.
All my friends are talking about it, and all the teachers in school are talking about it. It's crazy.
A nail biter of a basketball game leads to an incredible moment captured on camera.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. Allied Health is walking away from contract talks with the province. The union represents 800 healthcare workers and it isn't ruling out a strike. Here and Now's Heather Gillis has the latest.
Our members are asking about when we're taking a strike vote, so again, that tells you how motivated they are.
Gordon Piercy, president of the Association of Allied Health Professionals, represents about 800 healthcare workers in about 24 different occupations. Everything from physiotherapists to pharmacists and psychologists, audiologists, respiratory therapists, and more. The union was in conciliation negotiating a new contract with government, but Allied Health has walked away.
We are so far apart, like really far apart right now, to the point where we just saw nothing productive in pursuing or continuing.
The major issue, Piercy says, is how workers are classified and paid through the province's job evaluation system. He says there's a wide gap between some of his members and other healthcare workers, with some being paid as much as $20,000 less, making recruitment and retention difficult. The union is finalizing its essential services agreement before it can take a strike vote.
We do not want to take job action. We want government to be responsive, proactive. Let's not wait till this becomes a crisis and figure out how we're going to remedy this in. We are asking you, we are trying to partner with you, government, in trying to solve this. Please work with us.
Meanwhile, the provincial government says it's offered the union a fair deal, one that's consistent with what other public sector unions have already ratified. Last year, nurses and teachers received a 2% raise a year over 4 years, signing bonuses and other improvements.
Our proposal to AAHP provides generous wage adjustments, factoring adjustments for competitiveness and recognition of long service, similar to or the same as those negotiated and accepted by other unions and employees.
The finance minister says they've offered the union a process to change some job classifications and has asked the Labour minister for mediation in an effort to avoid a strike.
Allow me to say we're going to do everything that we can to not have that happen. And we're going to continue to do everything we can to not have that happen.
But Piercy says they won't talk with government again until there's a more substantive offer. Heather Gillis, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, staying with recruitment, the health minister says government is working hard to attract hundreds of nurses, and today it released the numbers. But the head of the nurses union says it still isn't enough. Here now's Mark Quinn has more.
The nurses union says it's been asking for the latest numbers for months. It wants to know why there are so many vacancies despite all the recruitment efforts of the province. Today, when Health Minister Tom Osborne spoke with reporters, he talked about the numbers of nurses recruited this year.
Just recently, I'd been saying that there was approximately 370 nurses recruited since the 1st of April, at the beginning of this fiscal year. That's now over 400.
Osborne then moved to the number the union has been after for months, vacancies.
In October of 2022, we were over 750, I think it was close to 760 vacancies. It's now closer to 700 vacancies.
Union President Yvette Coffey said that's not good enough.
It's good that we're recruiting and getting 400 registered nurses into the system and nurse practitioners, But if we got that many leaving that we only have a net result of 60, we have a bigger issue. We have a retention issue here in this province.
Osborne said the problem is demographics. A large portion of our population are baby boomers, a group that's reaching retirement age, causing shortages in many sectors.
We are starting to get ahead of the curve, even though we still have the baby boomers retiring.
Coffey said it's more than that. She said nurses are overworked, they're frequently getting injured, and facing a lot of violence at work. She said nurses' working conditions must improve before the province solves its retention problem. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, you will soon have access to more of your own medical records. The province is providing electronic access to test results, radiology reports, and other health information. Here Now's Peter Cowan is here to explain it all. So, Peter, how will people be able to access this information?
Well, in the next few months, you'll be able to log on to the MyGovNL site, the same place you go to renew your driver's license. And there you'll be able to check the status of tests or see what medication you've been given by a pharmacist. So let's show you. This is what it's going to look like. You'll be able to go in and look at previous tests, and from there, you can go and look at the specific lab results. So, for example, this is from some blood work. It's basically the same information that your doctor has access to, but it won't be right away. Things like blood work will have a 7-day delay from when the test is done, so that gives your doctor time to review the results and get in touch about any potential concerns. For radiology, things like x-rays and ultrasounds, it's going to be 2 weeks before you're able to see it. This new process means patients won't be left wondering about medical results.
I think people with chronic diseases will very much benefit because they probably understand their blood work, they understand what's been followed, and they understand the test is specific to them. And for them to be able to reassure themselves about that their disease is not changing in any particular way can be a great benefit to them.
Now, not all information will be posted online. Pathology reports, which deals with things like biopsies or cancer, won't be posted to ensure that that information is delivered by a healthcare provider.
Okay, so that makes sense. So, Peter, who will have access to this information?
Yeah, so next month it's only going to be available to 5,000 people to start out with as they sort of get this up and running. But they're going to add 50,000 people a month as they make sure the system's okay. So there are going to be a few criterias. So it'll only be for people age 16 plus, at least in the beginning. You'll need to have a driver's license or a provincial identity card, and you'll have the ability to share this information with someone else, which is handy if you have a family member, for example, a parent or a grandparent who isn't very tech savvy. There is also going to be an app introduced later this year. They're spending about $6 million to develop it, so you'll be able to get this information on your phone.
All right, so what about privacy concerns? Because it was just a few years ago that hackers stole the private personal health information of hundreds of thousands of people. So how well protected will this information be?
Yeah, the information is being stored on servers that are located within the province, and the province insists that it's using the highest security possible.
People of the province can be assured their information is protected. There are a number of means that we use to do that. Obviously, privacy impact assessments, external vulnerability assessments, as well as leveraging the secure government ID platform.
The information in this portal is information that the province has already been keeping. It was just until now that information was only accessible to healthcare professions.
Very interesting change. Thank you so much, Peter.
My pleasure.
Well, a new site has been selected for the province's Heart Force One program. It began a year ago and provides patients with quick heart procedures, ones that don't require the hassle of an overnight stay. Here Now's Troy Turner has more from Gander.
Lauded by all three political parties, the province calls it Heart Force One. It was set up a year ago in St. John's. Now the province wants to expand the program and base it all in Gander.
We have flights that go around the province and bring cardiac cath patients to the tertiary care centre, the cardiac cath lab in St. John's, where they receive same-day treatment, provided the flight back to a hospital closer to their home community. And it's been working very, very well.
Tom Osborne says it's such a success, the province wants to grow the program.
We are also able to look at adding other services to that besides cardiac cath. So that will allow us then to expand the service, perhaps even more flights, more patients throughout the province with more services.
And with expansion comes the possibility of jobs.
Once the tender is awarded, we'll be able to provide a better idea of the number, but that number itself will be fluid because as we add more services, we may need more health professionals on the flights. As we increase the number of procedures that will be added to those flights, we may need more flights.
Moving air ambulance to St. John's and Labrador is still the plan. And while the dispatch will leave Gander for St. John's, there may be other opportunities for Central.
There's quite a bit of activity in Gander. We are going to have a larger presence of air ambulance. We are expanding HEMS or the helicopter service, for example. We are looking at a greater reliance on fixed wing than we currently have. We are looking at consolidating and coordinating those services so that it's one provider.
The province issued a request for proposals for the Heart Force One program back in September 2023. Osborne says the decision to base it solely in Gander was made more recently. The RFP closes in February. Troy Turner, CBC News, Gander.
A wintry scene in Gander and also in Happy Valley Goose Bay under a winter storm warning at the moment. Not hard to see why. Here's what it looked like on the roads earlier today. Lots of heavy snow and blowing snow started at about 6 o'clock this morning. And so far, 26 centimeters has been recorded. So you're basically doubling the amount of snow that was on the ground just before this snow started, which is lovely, I'm sure, for most people. And the reason for this is an area of low pressure bringing some rain at the moment to portions of the island as well. And if we take a look at the visibility, most of the day, like I said, it's blowing snow up across Labrador. Happy Valley Goose Bay now about 1.2 kilometers is the visibility. Nain at 1.6, and we've got some low visibility as well in St. Anthony. So we're expecting this to continue, the winter storm warnings anyway. Tonight, temperatures are going to drop across the island. We're already starting to see that happen from west to east. We've got an intense snow squall set up as we head through tomorrow. This will continue into Friday. If you have any travel plans, you're definitely going to want to keep an eye on the forecast. And that winter storm in Labrador will continue as well. We're talking about quite a bit of snow, especially towards the coast. I'll break it all down for you coming up.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, a figure skating coach from the Avalon has been accused of sexual crimes against a minor. The Supreme Court trial against 29-year-old Matthew Power started today after a delay yesterday. Power was teaching teenage girls when he was arrested in 2021. Now, according to police testimony, he allegedly exchanged messages of a sexual nature with an underage complainant using the messaging app Snapchat. Police say copies of those messages were submitted as evidence. Power is facing several charges, including making sexual material available to a minor, luring, and sexual interference. His trial continues this week. Well, a Supreme Court judge has ordered 2 high-end real estate developers to pay big damages in a case going back a decade. The judge found that Kevin Nolan and Robert Hall duped 8 out of province investors into buying condos on Rennie's Mill Road in St. John's, even though city zoning laws don't allow it. The judge hit them with $1.8 million in damages, plus legal costs for the long-running court proceeding, which began in 2014. Hall could not be reached for comment, but Nolan said in an emailed statement that he now has no choice but to appeal. Police, paramedics, and fire crews responded to a house fire in the west end of St. John's early this afternoon. Parts of Frecker Drive were blocked off just before 2 o'clock. First responders on the scene say damage from the fire was contained to the home's upper floor. One resident was taken to hospital to be treated for injuries. The other residents are housed by the Red Cross. The RNC says it will investigate the cause of the fire. And we have some great video for you now. It shows St. John's High School student Kyle Bridger making a magnificent shot at a basketball tournament over the weekend. The CBC's Katie Breen has the story.
This shot has been watched more than 1 million times.
So I made eye contact with my teammate. I ran up the floor. He threw the ball to me in the air. I just shot it. It looked good. And then when it went in, I was a little surprised and a little confused what to do. So I just stood there. And then a lot of people from my school just crowded the court.
It's O'Donnell versus Gonzaga. With just over a second left in the game, Gonzaga down by 1 point. They've got 2 free throws, and they tied up with the first. These are rival high school basketball teams. They faced each other at last year's 4A championships, and Gonzaga will pull ahead if he makes this shot.
We had no timeouts left, and I was thinking, well, we gotta at least shoot it.
The video, shot by 709 Films, is going viral online with hundreds of thousands of views.
Everyone's talking about it. All my friends are talking about it. And all the teachers in school are talking about it. It's crazy.
Number 12 made the shot, but he credits his teammates with the game. One viral buzzer beater isn't getting to his head.
I wasn't expecting that to happen ever. So when it happened, I didn't know what to do. And when I hear it, I just say thanks.
Katie Breen, CBC News, St. John's.
All the forensic analysis to date has shown that no data was compromised.
Technology at MUN's Grenfell campus was crippled due to a ransomware attack. More from MUN's president about the hack and what it means for students and staff.
Well, winter storm warnings, blowing snow advisory, wind warnings, and snow squall warnings. We'll talk all about it when I come back.
Sable's just such a unique place. Probably sounds a little bit corny to say, but the sand just got in my blood.
That's Jason Surratt with Parks Canada here on Sable Island. It's a bright and windy morning, but fair weather is not what brought me here.
Sable is well known for being a very foggy place. We have approximately 127 days a year where there's at least 1 hour of fog.
I'm Natalie Dobbin, and this week on Atlantic Voice, I'm exploring fog on the East Coast.
Everyone in Atlantic Canada has stories about fog. It's a very sensory experience in terms of both the things that you're feeling, but also the absence of senses.
There is no sense of time in a fog bank. You can't see the sun. The light is all the same. It's just you and your choices.
Listen to Atlantic Voice this Sunday morning on CBC Radio 1, 8:30 or 9 in Newfoundland, and on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast.
Well, folks in Corner Brook woke up to driveways full of snow today while residents broke out their snowblowers. Schools, the library, and some offices were closed in the morning to deal with all that mess.
Yeah, not too cold though. Some mild temperatures this afternoon meant that we saw some rain, which was nice, but that mild air did not last long.
And quite a bit of rain, it seemed like, in St. John's.
Yeah, we saw about, last time I checked, I think it was about 8 millimeters of rain had fallen, but we'll likely see a little bit more than that. But if you take a look at the temperature, say 3 degrees where we topped out in Corner Brook, and the further east, the warmer the temperatures, about 5 to 7 degrees today. And it was quite chilly though, still up across Labrador, minus 13 in Lab City today. And as you head towards the coast though, southeastern portions hovered around 0 for most of the afternoon. So we've got this area of low pressure, a warm front and a cold front in behind. As that cold front has swept through, we have seen those temperatures drop, but we're still in that warm sector for most of eastern Newfoundland, but that will quickly come to an end as we head through the overnight tonight. There's that temperature drop down to -2 in Corner Brook right now. We're at 4 degrees in Gander, but like I said, expecting those temperatures to close out close to 0 over the next couple of hours as that cold front gets a little bit closer. And up across Labrador, feeling more like -20 in Lab City at the moment, and Goose Bay feels more like -14. So we've certainly got some cold air, and we'll continue to see that cold air as we head through the night tonight. Now, taking a look at the radar right now, some lighter showers. We did see a few heavier showers roll through earlier. But for the most part, just light showers, anticipating that these will end over the next couple of hours. And we're in a bit of a lull as far as that wind is concerned, especially here in the east. Still a bit gusty, though, up across Labrador and the western portions of the island, gusting near 76 kilometers per hour in the Port aux Basques area, otherwise between 30 to 50 up across Labrador. But we are going to see those winds really ramp up through the overnight. They'll be out of the west, gusting anywhere from 70 to as much as 80 kilometers per hour across the island. Your winds will shift up across Labrador as well, from easterlies to more westerly winds, but they'll be sitting somewhere between 30 to 50 kilometers per hour through the night tonight. Now, let's talk about the snow squall potential. We do have snow squall warnings in place along the west coast of the island, and then we've got a snow squall watch rather for the Canagra Peninsula as well as the Avalon, the Burin Peninsula. You are under a snow squall warning as well. So what does this mean? Well, if you're planning on traveling anywhere tonight or into tomorrow, mainly tomorrow, expect the snow squalls to be sudden. You'll drive in and out of them, but they're intense bursts of snow and wind. That is the definition of a snow squall. And when you do get into some of these snow squalls, expect whiteout conditions and rapidly deteriorating roads. Now, let's take a look at what's going to happen. I kept the winds on there for you because we are, like I said, in a bit of a lull, but as we head through tonight and into tomorrow, those winds are going to ramp up. These snow squalls will start to develop in the early morning hours. Starting on the west, you can see they're clearly visible on the future tracker. It does look like the Burin Peninsula may see the most amount of snow from this, and then parts of the west coast as well, and across the Avalon. Likely through tomorrow afternoon, the winds gusting anywhere from 60 to 80 kilometers per hour. We may see gusts even higher than that in some of these snow squalls, and that will continue for most of the day on Thursday and potentially even into Friday as well. As far as Labrador is concerned, we're looking at those the snow continuing for you as well, along with some fairly gusty winds. Now, in and around Nain, we may see some temperatures up above zero, so you'll get a bit of relief if we do see that change over to rain at times tomorrow. Snowfall amounts, highly variable because snow squalls are highly variable, but some of the models, I mean significant snowfall amount, some of the models, especially on the west coast, bullseye, 60, maybe even 70 centimeters of snow if we see some persistent squalls. The snow squalls take the amounts for central Avalon, or for the Avalon rather, and the Burin Peninsula with a grain of salt. But you're seeing those bullseyes, 20 to 30 centimeters. Some of us could see that if we are seeing some of those persistent squalls. Now, up across Labrador, coastal areas, 50 to 60 centimeters, certainly not out of the question. 26 centimeters has already fallen for Happy Valley Goose Bay, but you could double that by the time we get into Friday evening. So we'll talk about the long-range forecasts when I come back.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, we have more information tonight about the cyber attack at MUN's Grenfell campus in Corner Brook. MUN's president has confirmed that a ransomware attack gave hackers access to data on Grenfell's servers and knocked out IT services. He says it will be several weeks before full access to the networks is restored. Neil Bose spoke with the CBC's Jessica Singer this afternoon.
As of today, I can say it was a ransomware attack, which encrypted all of the data effectively on the servers at the Grenfell campus.
What damage was done to that system?
So the effective damage was no one could access anything, and none of the data was accessible to us. So no one could use their email systems, and we couldn't use computers that had been on that network until they were cleaned and reset. And because we have our St. John's campus network, which is main IT services, so they effectively moved over to those email systems, which got them back on the network, but then everything else has to be put in place, and of course all the past emails and data is not accessible.
And where do things stand right now then?
There are email systems up and running for the individuals at Grenfell. There are Wi-Fi networks available. There's some of them are cut in and out, it's true, but everyone has that access. We've been in the process of putting in place a laboratory network for some of the courses. That's taking a little bit longer to put in place than we anticipated. We thought it might be up last week, but it's still being worked on. But anything that relied on the Grenfell servers and computer systems has been out of action. All the forensic analysis to date has shown that no data was compromised. All of the advice that we've had from the external experts to Memorial that we have been working with to get our network back up and running have advised, we're following their advice on what we should be talking about, how we should relay it, because we don't want to compromise getting back up and running for the students, obviously, first and foremost, but also the staff and academics at Grenfell as soon as possible.
It was frightening to think at times is like this may not work out for me.
An incredible story of survival. Our feature interview with Nicole Kiley, the deputy mayor of Mount Pearl, about the harrowing accident that put her into a week-long coma. That's coming up.
That, kind of trips.
Well, you're about to see the first of a two-part interview with Mount Pearl's deputy mayor, Nicole Kiley. Now, Kiley survived a harrowing ordeal last year when she was struck by an SUV outside of a St. John's drugstore. Kiley, a pedestrian, was pushed through the building and remained awake as crews worked to rescue her. We're going to hear about her remarkable road to recovery tomorrow night on the show, but first, here she is describing what happened to on-the-go host Anthony Germain.
I want you to start by taking me back to May 21st, the May 24 weekend last year. So what's that, 8 months ago?
It was a beautiful, clear day. I remember the roads being very clear because I actually headed from the cabin to go back to town. May 24 is about getting your supplies, getting out of town, and that was what I wanted to do, just pop into a store, grab some supplies, and back out onto the road.
So you were going into the Shoppers on Le Marchant to get some supplies, right? It was around 3 o'clock?
Yeah, that was about it. It was like midday afternoon by that point, by the time you get back into town. So I, parked my car in front and went in, and like I do, I forgot my wallet, so I ran back out. Shuffled to get it, and then on my second way back in, there was a open parking space that was close to mine, parallel to my car. I noticed a car kind of jaggedly going in. It had hit another car coming in, and then that kind of, for a second, had me stop and pause of what's going on there.
So in your peripheral vision, you noticed something was happening.
That's right.
How much do you remember about what actually happened as it unfolded?
That's a good question. A lot of people are wondering. It's like, do you freeze? Is it, with the trauma of something like that happening, do you remember? To this day, I remember all the details of what happened to me. After which point I saw the car, it just kept coming.
Did you have time to brace yourself for whatever was about to happen?
So whatever happened in that moment, I think, was a reaction, and I am so absolutely grateful that my response was to some actions to save myself. So one of the things I did do was brace for an impact, and because this whole full car was coming pedal to the metal to me, I held on to the hood. And I think that moment absolutely saved my life, because if I had just taken the impact on that point, I would have just fallen back onto the sidewalk, if you will, and the car would have kept going right over me. The car kept coming. I went through a pane of glass into the store.
The store's glass.
That's right.
So the car essentially pushed you backwards through the pane of glass.
That's right. And once I was in the store, and there's a little bevel, if you will, that's holding up the glass, that kind of tripped me up, and I fell forward. And at that point, the car continued to come. And again, it was roaring, is the best way to describe it. You could see the tire going quite fast, because at this point, the car had almost been up. It's now at an angle.
And where are you?
I'm on the ground, trying to move as much as I can out of the way of the car. It eventually came so close that I got stuck. My head was just right to where the hood would be, like the end of the hood, and my leg and parts of my body had been kind of wedged under the car, and the car was continuing to go. And so this is where like the life-saving measures of what do you do in this moment instantaneously. I think the second thing that I had done that saved my life was to try to move as possible out of the way in that moment. And then I also put my arm up because where my most of my head was, and you know, vital organs and all that was by this propelling
car
and tire. So I put my hand up. I took a lot of damage on my arm, but it saved my head. It saved a lot other of essential parts of you. And at that point, I remember really loudly, because I screamed, I think, a couple of times. That's your reaction of anything. Can somebody turn the car off? Like, turn the car off.
You're trapped underneath the car, and you have the presence of mind to tell people, turn off the car,
turn off the car. Yeah. And I think that was it. I was in a state of like, you got to find a way. Find a way, just find a way. In my mind, I think that was something of an instinct and like a jolt of what I wanted to do in that moment. Was to survive.
You're pinned under the car.
Yeah.
Your arm is seriously damaged. Your leg, even more seriously damaged.
Yeah.
What level of pain were you experiencing?
I am grateful to say that I was feeling nothing. And, you know, you can chalk that up. I'm sure people would talk about adrenaline of what happens in those kind of major events. And I'm happy to say that things felt uncomfortable, but from what you're describing, and people would say that sounds unbearable.
Yeah.
It was bearable. And I think that kind of shot of adrenaline is what allowed me to kind of concentrate on what I needed to do, which was to survive.
How long were you there?
It felt short to me, as much as my understanding, it could have been about an hour. I can't tell you how incredible it was to have somebody, because somebody responded to me when I said turn off the car. I saw footsteps just absolutely leap into the scene, open the car door, and then immediately turn off the car. And that same person then kind of like moved themselves to support me and held my hand. That is really what allowed me to kind of like get through that hour in a way of like concentrate on, you know, he asked me questions, who you were, everything's going to be okay, they're getting help. This scene is incredibly unsafe for the people who are in the store, for the first responders that would need to go to the store. We don't know what could have structurally happened like that.
The car is half in, half out.
Half in, half out. The whole wall could have come down. The car could have come down. So first responders were there almost immediately and working with me along with the young gentleman who was holding my hand.
When you were underneath the car, did your mind go to places that would be difficult to accept? Did you think that maybe this was it?
I think so. Yeah, it did. It was frightening to think at times is like this may not work out for me.
But the other side, I guess, is that yes, you lost your leg.
Yeah.
But you're here.
I was, and I felt that almost immediately. I felt, okay, as soon as the car was off, and I kind of like, I'm here, I'm talking, people are here, people are going to respond, that there is hope. And then when I was even being dragged out, and even before that, I started squirming out, whether I was supposed to do it or not. Like I said, as soon as I felt a release, I was out of there. And even in that moment, I was feeling, yes, okay, I'm making it, yeah. And everything after this is just gravy, because, yeah.
What condition was your leg in? Were you conscious of that?
I was guessing it was broken, a lot of breaks, potentially. But it was really hard to tell all that because as first responders were doing, they were like, they did not want me to move. They didn't want me to get up. They basically, as much as they could, get me immediately on a flat stretcher.
Right, concerned about spinal.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I didn't have a spinal injury. I had no head injuries. I wasn't in incredible amounts of pain at that time because the adrenaline was running.
Yeah.
And I was alive. So that was.
At what point do you lose consciousness?
So that had happened on the stretcher, in the ambulance and being taken to the hospital. And, that's when they started working on me immediately with
in the ambulance.
So medicating me. As soon as I was medicated, I'm losing consciousness, and that was more so the medications that were given to me at that time that really did that. There were moments I know hard to recall that I was up and in the stretcher before the surgeries and stuff like that.
Right.
Just incredible. And as you heard there, Nicole Kiley did lose a leg in that accident. The trauma was so severe, doctors put her into a coma. And we hope you can join us tomorrow for part 2 of Anthony's feature interview with Mount Pearl's deputy mayor as she talks about the long road to recovery. A St. John's author's debut novel has made the long list for a prestigious international award. The Dublin Literary Award honors excellence in world literature, and William Ping, who also works here at CBCNL, is one of 70 authors nominated for his debut novel, Hollow Bamboo. Now, the award will be handed out later this year and comes with a $147,000 prize for the winner. Ping sat down with the CBC's Jeremy Eaton earlier today.
It's a pretty big deal, I would say. I mean, I guess it sort of proclaims to be awarding the best book in the English language across all the English-speaking nations. I was so excited when I first got the news. I was at my desk writing my next book, actually, when the email came in, and I was so surprised, I was so excited, and I was jumping up and down. Then I had to stay quiet about it, sign the NDA, but it's exciting now to everyone knows, and everybody's been so happy about it. It's been really, really nice. I feel the love, for sure. Writing the book, I thought, you know, a few friends would read it, my parents would read it, and that would be it, and I'd poke the manuscript away in a box somewhere underneath the desk. But, you know, it's been a really wild ride, and the national reception has been really crazy and so positive, and truly I didn't expect any of it. I feel good. I feel great. You know, it's great just to have this recognition of the long list. I don't expect to make the short list, but just to have made it this far is really amazing, and it's just so incredible that readers have connected with my family's story and with the novel.
Given how wildly popular this book has been, does that put a lot of pressure on for book number 2 that you're currently writing?
Absolutely. You know, writing the second one, I found it very difficult to really dig into writing it, just because with the more positivity that I heard about the first one, the more sort of anxiety I got about, you know, will this live up to readers' expectations? But the next book is something very different, so I think readers will have to expect something different next time.
Well, 4 years ago today, things went dark here at CBC Newfoundland and Labrador in St. John's. Snowmageddon was kicking into high gear and conditions were only about to get worse. We dipped into the Here and Now archives to bring you this look back at that unforgettable storm.
This is the start of it. I don't know how we're going to navigate in a few hours. Pretty brutal.
Brutal is the word. Not long after St. John's declared a state of emergency, the first time since 1984. The city even took plows off the road, except to provide emergency escorts. Hospitals are open, but the largest one told staff not to come in tonight, and no one in to leave. This cab company pulled its entire fleet off the roads for the first time in its history. That's exactly what people are being advised to do: stay home and off the roads. Social media was flooded with pictures like this, but officials warn letting snow pile up could be dangerous.
I'm just standing steps outside the door. We can't get any farther than this, so we're sleeping here tonight.
The state of emergency has been extended at least until tomorrow, possibly longer. That means businesses have to remain closed and vehicles must stay off the road. So people tried to get around as best they could. Many snowshoed, others, well, rolled.
I thought I got to go out and just take a look around and see everything, because it's very, very rare you'll see the streets in downtown St. John so quiet.
It's not yet really about cleaning up, but rather getting out. Many couldn't even see their cars.
It's scary when you open the door and then you see the snow is piled so high and you have to crawl out the door and crawl on top of your car to, you know, get a gauge of how bad it is.
Against the backdrop of those famous, colorful houses, sometimes heads were visible, sometimes not. The Premier has called in the Army.
There is so much snow, the City of St. John's has received special permission to dump it in St. John's Harbor to help with this massive cleanup. There's just nowhere else to put it.
People are getting struck just trying to get out to get their groceries, trying to get out to get some gas. So, no, it's a dire situation here. I think it's the right call to have a state of emergency and get as many people with shovels in their hands as possible.
Hospital.
Just before the break, we had that archival piece about Snowmageddon. Today is the 4-year anniversary of that. We were just reminiscing about that incredible day. We were in the dark here in the studio that night.
We were outside. Right now, wind whipping. It was incredible. Yeah.
Now, the weather right now is certainly nowhere near that, but we did have a little bit of a stormy day, and you had some really good advice for me earlier.
Yes. So if you haven't dealt with any of the snow or slushy stuff that's happening, maybe in your driveway or anywhere really, you're definitely going to want to deal with that because temperatures are dropping tonight, and then it's going to stay like that for a while.
So it's going to turn to ice.
It will turn to ice.
Skating rink out there.
Definitely. And tomorrow is going to be that way as well. Let's take a look at the forecast through the afternoon. Temperatures well below zero tomorrow. Again, reminder, some snow squalls will likely develop. Some intense snow squalls will likely develop tomorrow. And if you have any travel plans, you will drive in and out of them. So you're definitely going to want to keep an eye on the radar tomorrow or your local forecast as well. Temperatures up across Labrador will be into the minus single digits. With the exception of Nain, you're going to go up above zero for a little bit of time through the afternoon. So that will improve some of the visibility, some of the winter storm conditions anyway for a few hours. But the snow will move right back in. So here's the area of low pressure that I'm talking about. So Thursday evening, that snow and blowing snow will continue for most of Labrador. The snow squall activity will continue through Friday as well across the island, maybe a little less widespread for eastern areas of the island anyway, still anticipating those snow squalls to continue on the west coast. And then eventually, as we get into Friday evening, the winds will finally let up for most of us, really, but really up across Labrador. So you will see those conditions improve, which will be nice. But your temperatures just hovering in and around the 0 degree mark, a little bit below, and maybe even a little bit above in the Happy Valley Goose Bay area. Same thing for the northern peninsula, but most of the island will be sitting below zero for your Friday. And then as we head into Friday evening and Saturday, generally improving weather, but there's an area of low pressure just offshore which may skirt the Avalon and bring some snow as well. Going to keep a close eye on that one. Still anticipating that we will see some flurries through the day, definitely through central and portions of the west coast as well, but we'll finally see that sunshine return up across Labrador. Nain, you'll hover around minus 10, otherwise into the minus single digits and near or just below zero across the island. Long range forecast, like I said, going to stay below zero. So if you don't deal with that snow, it's not going, or the slushy stuff or the ice rink, it's not going anywhere. So flurries will continue right through Sunday with some light snow. Monday, you're looking at the return of some sunshine later in the day and your temperature around minus 4. For central and western Newfoundland, you're looking at your temperatures dipping again below zero, minus double digits as we get through central into the beginning of next week. And then hovering in and around the minus single digits, but definitely dropping those temperatures for eastern Labrador as well as the west, back down to the minus 30s for overnight. This is a lovely shot. I love, not a typical sunset as I normally show you, but this is an icy Stephenville there. Thank you so much for that photo, Frank. And if you have any weather photos you'd like to share with us, you can send them to Facebook or email them to nophotos@cbc.ca.
It's a great shot. Nice up close look at a icicle and the lights all out of focus in the background. Really nice shot.
It's a great shot, Frank.
Yeah, lots of icicles tomorrow.
Oh, yes, we will.
Yeah, you want to watch out where you step, and you might want to look up too, just to make sure that there's no icicles hanging down. All right, well, that's it for us this evening. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good night.